I always enjoy, coming to networking groups because most of the time you don't see a lot of the same faces over and over again, which is really, really nice. That means things are working. When you go to a group and you see the same group of people over and over again, I get a little worried about that. I figure either nothing's happening for them or this is some kind of cult of some kind, and I got to be careful. What's that big barbecue thing in the back going on for? I'm a little worried about stuff like that. But anyway, it's always a pleasure to talk to. I try to speak to networking groups as much as I possibly can. I myself, years ago when I was working on Wall Street, I went through a couple of transitions, and I know emotionally and psychologically what this process is all about. They can be networking groups can be a very helpful way. If they do nothing else, they keep the heebie-jeebies away. You get to see other people. You get to know that there are other people in the same position that you are, that are going through the same things that you're going through, and just that alone is very supportive. But really, I'm here to talk about how do you survive a networking group meeting? How do you get the most out of these things? As I said, I always enjoy talking to this particular group because you guys are cool. I don't have the normal experience with you folks. You folks are very classy about the way that you do this. Most networking group meetings, I walk in the door and I am greeted, actually body tackled, by some slobbering puppy dog. It's always a guy. It's never a woman. Always a guy who just comes in, grabs me, pushes me up against the wall, sticks a business card in my face. Hey, how you doing? And he starts talking about what he does, and invariably, what does he do? He sells life insurance. That's what he does. Seriously, I think it is a federal law that in order to have a viable networking group, you must have at least 3 people who sell life insurance. I don't know what it is. Every networking group, there's always this one person, and the minute he tackles you, he's like, fresh meat, he hasn't heard my story yet, right over. That's what happens. What's that? Did I ever see the movie Take the Money and Run the Around? The answer is I never did. But that's what most networking groups are like. You guys are really cool. And that's why I love coming back here, because I don't have that experience with you people. And people don't realize that's a total waste of time to do stuff like that. I will share with you. Some of you know me, some of you don't. But I am, by training and education, although I swear to you, not by temperament, a lawyer. Okay, now, you just noticed, by the way, the temperature in this room just dropped 10 degrees. Did you notice that when I said that? Yeah, what I did was absolutely the wrong way to introduce yourself at a networking group, okay? Because the L word carries a lot of baggage with that, doesn't it? If any of you here have been through a nasty divorce, you hate lawyers. You want to crucify all of us, okay? And that's the thing. So if I lead with that, all of a sudden, all that baggage comes dropping down on this table, okay? And whatever problems you may have had with lawyers that's all you're going to be thinking about, okay? That is not the right way to do it. But most people who do networking groups, I hate to say it, I get depressed sometimes when I talk to a lot of these networking groups, because I see a lot of people just handing cards back and forth and all this stuff, and all they're talking about is what they've done, what they want to do. And a lot of these cards just go, I hate to say it, most people, when they go home, they throw them in the round file. I hate to say that. I hate to burst your bubble, but that's a lot of what happens at these more typical networking group meetings. Here's how to avoid this happening to you. Okay, how do you get the most out of it? Well, first of all, when you join a networking group, be realistic about what this group is going to do for you. I have to be very honest. I don't see a lot of clients. I myself do not belong to a networking group. That's mostly because I just don't have the time. It's a simple matter than that. I do a lot of things. But more significantly, I don't like them. I don't join a lot of these groups because you have to know what you're going to get out of them. Most of my clients do not get business out of networking groups. We should be aware. I work mostly with entrepreneurs. I work mostly with people who are leaving the corporate world behind and are going to start businesses of their own, usually as consultants to larger companies. That's a lot of what I focus on. And I just don't see them getting a lot of business out of it. I just don't. Most of the time, the people that you meet at networking groups don't really have a higher level of contacts than you yourself have. And it just doesn't happen. But there are some wonderful things you can get out of networking groups. The first, I always tell people, don't go looking for business, look for friends. Number one, look for people who are like you, who have had a similar background, who are serving the same kinds of people that you want to serve. Because when you work for yourself, and I've been working out of my spare bedroom now for over 20 years. I'm seriously, I'm actually writing a book, believe it or not, now called Bathrobe Lawyer. How to build a successful law practice, working out of a home office. And I've been doing this now for over 20 years. And when you work like I do, you kind of get into an echo chamber after a while. Everything that pops into your head is just an idea of unimagined brilliance and genius. Anything you think about is something that is worth doing. And of course, that's not true. 99% of the things you think about are things that you should not do at all. You shouldn't even think about doing them. And you need reality checks. Read any book on entrepreneurship, on small business, they will tell you need to form a support network of people who you can bounce ideas off of. And that's their sole function. You don't look to get business out of them. You just look to bounce ideas off them and see how they react. So, for example, I do belong to such a group. I don't really call it a networking group. There are 6 of us. We're all solo lawyers. We work out of our homes in the greater Bridgeport area, not around here. And basically what we do, we meet 3 or 4 times a year when we have time, but most of the time we don't. We just talk to each other on the phone. Our commitment to each other is if one of us has a question and we just want to chat with another attorney for 15 minutes, some of the work I do, I get into some very interesting ethical type conundra. So I'm always looking for a second opinion. Hey, am I getting into any hot water here if I go this way, if I do this, and I represent this client, and I'm also representing that client. And it's very nice to know that somebody will return my phone call within 24 hours, and we can spend 15 minutes on the phone. We don't charge each other or anything like that. But that's the commitment that we have to each other. And networking groups can be fabulous for that, especially for those of you who are looking to strike out on your own. They can be very supportive just to help get a reality check on your ideas. And the people you want to meet at networking groups are people who are serving the same customers that you want to reach. So, for example, if I were a jewelry designer, if I were designing high-end jewelry, $5,000 and up, and I go to a networking group and there's the local BMW dealer, I want to get to know that person. Now, why? He sells cars, I sell jewelry. We're not selling the same stuff, but let's face it, if I'm selling $5,000 and up jewelry, who are my customers? The 1%. I'm dealing with very rich people. He also is dealing with very rich people in the same community. So that's somebody I want to get to know. I want that person as part of my net. We're not competitors. We're not going to get in each other's way, but he can help me figure out how to serve the rich people here in Westport, Connecticut. That's, what I really want to know if I'm doing this. That's one of the things you look for. You look for people who can provide you with information and support. That you can almost always get out of a networking group. Will you get business out of it? I don't know. Will you get leads for jobs? Probably not. Will you get emotional support? The answer is yes. Will you possibly make friendships? The answer is probably yes. Will you get the kind of people who can help you answer tough, thorny questions? Especially if you go off on your own, the answer is probably yes. That's the goal, really, I think, in joining a group like this and being a member. Be realistic about what you can get out of a group like this. That'll make it a lot easier, and frankly, you'll enjoy them a lot more. Okay, so now let's dig deep down. Let's talk about some realistic stuff here. So what do you do at a networking group? How do you impress people? Okay, well, the first thing, don't stick your business card in people's faces. That's, something, it almost always, especially to somebody like me, when somebody does that, you know what I'm thinking? I'm not thinking, oh, wow, this person is aggressive. This person, really is awake this morning. And also, too, why is it that most networking groups meet so early in the morning? I don't know why this is. 7 a.m., I got to get up out of bed, shower, get dressed, drive, survive the morning rush hour in Fairfield County, Connecticut, which is pretty brutal, to get to someplace at 7 o'clock in the morning. I am not a morning person. I am a night person. I'm the sort of person who's up working until 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, writing stuff. That's me. So for me to get up out of bed and do this, it is a real achievement. It really is. I'm not one of these people who, so just, give some thought to this. If you're a morning person, if you're a night person, networking groups may be a problem for you because of this morning thing that they've all got. But first of all, even if you don't have, a morning personality, and believe me, it's perfectly okay if you don't, I don't. Don't stick your card in people's faces. I will tell you the truth. When people do this to me, when people stick a card in my face and they want to have my card and all this kind of stuff, you know what I say? I say no. And this is bizarre. I'm one of the few people I know who do this. People, hey, listen, here's my card. You have a card? No, I don't want to get. I don't. Hold off a second. Just calm down. Forgive me. You seem like a great guy, and you're a person. You seem like you know what you're doing. But let's talk a little bit first. Right now, I don't really know if I can help you. I don't know any of you well enough right now to know if I can help you or not. I don't want to waste your time or mine, swapping cards with the expectation we're going to get in touch, and we never will. I don't want to do that to you, and I don't want you to do that to me. Let's talk for a bit. Let me figure out who you are, what it is you're looking to accomplish, and if I feel that there's something I can do for you, or if I know anybody that I can introduce to you, then I will ask you for your card. That's the best way to do it. And I never offer my card to anyone. Obviously, if I'm talking to somebody for a while and they ask me for it, I might say, well, okay, but just so you know, I keep very strict office hours. If you call me outside of that, I won't be able to respond to you. But I just don't like it. It's showing me that you just aren't willing to think about what our relationship might be like. So that's one thing I can offer you is, be a little cat-like when it comes to your business cards and things like that. Get to know somebody first before you have the conversation about, whether you give somebody your card or not. I often refer to this as business card jujitsu. Anybody here, if you don't have a martial arts background, jujitsu is a form of martial arts where basically you take an opponent's size and weight and you use it against them. Is basically what you do. You're in a fight with somebody who's much bigger than you are, but there are ways you can get leverage over that person and make that weight work against them. I took jiu-jitsu classes when I was in the 6th grade because I had issues with bullies and bullying me all the time. And I found that when I joined this class, I was the punching bag. Because I was the biggest kid in the room, and because of these techniques, all these little kids were able to throw me all around the room, bouncing off the padded walls and stuff like that. I couldn't get any leverage on them because they were all down around my kneecaps. It's very hard to grab somebody, around the waist when they're down around your kneecaps. I always had problems with jiu-jitsu, and I'm not so sure I like that form of martial arts. But the point here is you use the one thing you don't do. Let me sort of begin with this. The one thing that you should never do at a networking meeting, this is completely offensive, and it will turn off the other person immediately. And I have had people do this to me at networking meetings where you give somebody your card and they talk to you, then they turn and they write their information on the back of your card and hand it back to you. What would you think of somebody who did that to you? That's really like in your face, isn't it? That's like saying, I am more important than you. My you-know-what is bigger than your you-know-what. And it's just an offensive thing to do. Never, ever do that. Unless, of course, your goal is to turn the person off. If you really, really are dealing with somebody who is a pain in the neck, who is a time vampire, who is sucking all your time at the meeting, and you really want to get rid of this person and make sure he never talks to you again, do that to them. That will definitely get that result that you want. I don't think it's a nice thing to do, but there are times in networking meetings when you have to get rid of somebody, and that's a good way that's a very effective way of doing it. But don't do it unless that is your objective. More commonly, your best bet is don't take the person's card until you have a conversation with them. That's my message. Learn how you can work with each other. You may discover that there's nothing you can do for each other, and in that case, you've had a pleasant conversation for 5-10 minutes, and you don't have to worry about having to follow up with people. Okay, so I call that business card jujitsu. Don't be too quick to offer your card, and don't be too quick to give your card to somebody that you cannot really help, that you can't really do. One of the tricks of networking meetings is to avoid the time vampire, the person who takes up all your space, and they're nice people. It's very hard to say no to someone who is really, really nice. And most people who are in networking meetings are very, very nice people. It's very hard to say no to them, but you have to come up with a nice way of doing it. My wife has a beautiful expression. She's in HR, and she says, what you need to learn is the ability to tell somebody to go to hell in such a way that they actually look forward to the trip. Have you ever heard that expression? It's you do it in a nice way, but you're here for a particular purpose, and you want to meet people who can help you get to the next stage of your life. And who are those people? I always tell people, manage up, don't manage down. Now, what do I mean by that? In every group, networking group or otherwise, you're going to find that there's two kinds of people. There are people who can help you get where you want to go, and there are people whom you can help getting where they want to go. You want to spend as much time as possible with that first group of people. Don't get me wrong, you want to spend some time with the second group of people, but the first group of people is much more important. That's why you're here. You're here to try to find people who can who can introduce you to the techniques, maybe help you do a YouTube video, however it is you want to promote what it is you're doing. That's what you're here for, and those are the people you should be spending the most time with. While you certainly will find time if you're a decent human being to help other people achieve their goals, if you find yourself doing most of the time, you're not getting what you want here. You have to be just a wee bit self-centered. I won't say selfish, but you got to be a little bit self-centered here and say, now, what can I possibly, how can this person possibly help me? And if the answer is really no, move on to somebody else who can. Size up the group. If you get a chance, they sometimes list who's going to show up a day or two in advance. Look at that list, see who those people are, and say, okay, these three people, I definitely want to make sure I find at least 5 minutes to talk to these three people because I think they're the most likely to help me. Now, of course, other people will show up who it turns out that they can actually help you as well. You don't always know this, but you want to spend your time getting to the result that you want. Being nice is wonderful, but being nice means you're going to spend a lot of time helping other people out and not getting to where you need to be. You have to be just a wee bit self-centered when it comes to these things. So that's just, again, who do you target? Don't just plan on walking around and meeting people at random because, well, then you only get random results. Take a look around the room and say, now, who's been there? Wait a minute, this guy, he's doing facilities maintenance and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, I have an interest in that. I want to talk to this guy. He knows what he's doing. That kind of thing. That's what you really want to do. When people go around the room, they do the meet and greet. Listen very carefully to what they say. Okay? And what should you say during your meet and greet? Okay, let's talk about that next. So you do the meet and greet, everybody rolls around, they introduce themselves. Well, the first thing, the biggest mistake that people make is they say what they do. And that's a mistake. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, I'm a lawyer. Bingo. All right, half the room totally turned off at this point, right? Okay, you gotta be careful about this. You can't just say, hi, I'm so-and-so and I do market research. Okay. By doing that, you're putting a label on yourself. And a label is not a good thing to do because then people sort of put you in a box and they don't think of you as being anything outside that box. Yes, I'm a lawyer, but I am also the author of 16 books on small business. I'm a professional speaker who speaks at entrepreneurial groups and venture clubs around the United States. I'm talking a lot these days about crowdfunding, for the new equity crowdfunding, the SEC rules that were passed last year. I'm doing a lot of that. I am a former TV celebrity. During the 90s, I was the host of a public television TV show that was the very first Shark Tank type show. It was called Money Hunt, and it ran on PBS from 1994 to 2003. There's a lot more to me than just a law degree that's hanging on the wall. But if I say I'm a lawyer, all that other stuff is cut out. That's all you think about is, this guy who goes around fighting battles. Look, anybody who sees me live knows I am not a gladiator. I do not fight battles. I sure as hell don't look like one. Okay, that's the thing. So, be very careful about putting labels on yourself and what you do. The correct way to do the meet and greet is, first of all, say who your customers, who do you serve? Who do you help? So for example, if you are in a job transition, I work with companies in the X industry, and what I do for these companies is I help them do Y. That's the best way to do it. A lot of people do not know what CRM means. I hate to tell you that. Customer relations. If you say I'm a CRM specialist, wow, what's that? A lot of people don't know that. No, really, some people don't know. A lot of you do, of course. You're in the business world, of course, a lot of you do. But the thing is, a lot of people don't know that. So say, I work for companies in the X industry and I help them do Y. I work with small businesses. I help them with their contracts and and managing their business transactions is what I would say. Again, I'm not using the L word here, but I am saying very accurately what I do and who I do it for. Who are my customers? Who do I help? Especially those of you who are looking to do consulting work. What kinds of companies are you looking to consult with? What kinds of problems do you solve for them? That's what people want to hear. That gives them a much better sense of what it is and what you do. The second thing you want to get across on the meet and greet is, how do you differ from everybody else that is out there? What's your competitive advantage? Why should somebody hire you as opposed to hiring somebody else? Why should they be doing that? So for example, I just told you, I've written 16 books. I'm something of a small business guru. I give talks on topics around the country. I'm a generalist. I don't specialize in any one area of the law. I just did a contract over the weekend for a client who's got some customers in Europe and doesn't know how to deal with this new GDPR thing, this new data privacy law that the European Union has just passed. So I actually did this. I redid their privacy policy so that it's a little bit more European friendly. That kind of thing. That's what separates me from everybody else. There's very few projects I will not tackle for a client. And then last but not least, and this is the most important thing, and whether you do it at the meet and greet or whether you do it just walking around the room and talking about people, be memorable. Give people a reason to remember you. Now, I'm going to shock you a little bit, and I hope I don't shock you too much, but I believe in being very real. When I give a talk, it's always about what really happens, not just what the books say. When you give somebody your card and the meeting is over, 9 times out of 10, it ends up in the round file. You do know that. It does. People don't keep these things. I do. I'm a little different. I do keep them. If I do the walk around after we finish my talk here today, and some of you guys give me your business cards, I will bring them home. I will put them on my desk, and they will sit there for a week. Because I'm busy. I got, believe me, as soon as I get this meeting is over and I drive back to the office, I got 3 things waiting for me that I have to do today for clients. I'm not sitting around looking at these things, thinking about what a wonderful person you were. I have other things to do. So those cards are going to sit on my desk for about a week. And then next Sunday, when I'm cleaning up my desk and stuff like that, and I'm preparing for the next week, I'll grab these cards, I'll shuffle through them. And if I don't remember who you were, they go into the round file at that point. Okay, so basically what you have to do today is you have to somehow persuade me that say something that will help me remember who you are a week from now, is what you have to say. I have to remember, I have to be able to, oh, yeah, wait a minute, that was the guy with the glasses. Yeah, we were talking about this. That's where I want to be. And believe me, every once in a while, if I see somebody, I really could use a person like this, I will create an Outlook contacts thing, and you might actually get a call from me at that point. I mean, it has been known to happen. I actually met somebody, actually the last time I spoke here, I met somebody who was very interested in YouTube and in helping people set up YouTube videos. And I did, meet with this person, once or twice. I actually got him some clients. I actually referred him to a couple of my clients who were looking to develop a YouTube presence and that kind of stuff. That's what happens. It can happen that way, but I have to remember who you are. And if that doesn't happen, you have to be, now don't get me wrong, you have to be memorable in a good way. I mean, if you're memorable because, oh God, him, that's not the reaction that you want to get. It has to be sort of a positive thing. Okay. In the world of entrepreneurship, we have a name for this. We call this the elevator pitch. Have you ever heard this expression? Where you've only got 30 seconds to tell somebody about who you are. I'm sure you've had speakers here before that have spoken about this topic, but there's really a right way and a wrong way to do this. If you have to come up to a total stranger, say it's me, whenever I do a networking group, fondle the speaker is game number one. I mean, in many cases, I'm the first fresh meat that anybody has seen in a long time, so they all want to get to know me. If you're going to do this, here's how you do it, okay? Talk about who your customers are. Talk about what you do for them, how you make their lives better, or if you're looking for a job, talk about the kind of companies you want to work for, and keep in mind, not the ones you've worked for. Who do you want to work for? What kind of companies are you targeting? What kinds of functions do you perform within that corporate space? That's what I want to know. I want to know why you're different than anybody else. I've got 36 years of experience, whatever it is. And then I want you to say something memorable so that I will remember you a week from now. And that may not have anything to do with the rest of the stuff that's going on. Let me give you two examples of the right way and the wrong way to do an elevator pitch. This is an elevator pitch for a company that I actually ran for about 10 years in the late 80s and early 90s. It's a company I ultimately sold for $2 million, and I'm very proud of that. Here's elevator pitch number one. I'm going to give you two elevator pitches for this same company. Okay? Elevator pitch number one. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation in Fairfield, Connecticut. We are a leading legal publisher specializing in the legal career vertical. I will say it again, since most of you are looking at me like, huh? Okay, I'm going to do it again. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation in Fairfield, Connecticut. We are a leading legal publisher specializing in the legal career vertical. Do you have any idea what I just said? Probably not. Okay, it's all true. It's a good description of what my company did, but why is it not working? First of all, I'm a legal publisher, law book publishing. How many of you think that that's an exciting, dynamic place to be? Picture somebody who publishes law books for a living. What does that person look like? They probably need a good dusting, don't they? They've probably been living in the same office for 100 years. Their teeth are rotting away. This is what you think. You don't think, this is not dynamic. This is not glamorous. This is nothing, right? And then I said, specializing in the legal career vertical, what the heck? MBA jargon. Never use MBA jargon when you're doing this stuff. Get that up. Make it simple for people to understand. Like I say, not everybody knows what CRM means. There are some people that don't know what a market research person does. Make it easy for people to understand what it is you do and how you add value to people's lives, okay? So now, having done that, now let me give you the second elevator pitch. This is for that same company. Hi, I'm Cliff Ennico, president of Bienix Corporation in Fairfield, Connecticut. We are a leading publisher of books, audio tapes, and seminars designed to help lawyers manage their careers better. We do not teach them how to practice law. We teach them how to become more successful professionals. One of our books, The Legal Job Interview, an interview guide for young lawyers, was the book most frequently stolen from law libraries around the country, according to a recent law librarian survey. All right, it's a little bit longer than the first one, but do you get a better sense now of what this company was all about? Okay. We published it. We did. we were the first legal career information company. That's basically what we were. We were much bigger. We're not just a legal publisher. We published books, audio tapes. Remember the audio tapes that used to come in the plastic, the cassette tapes that used to come in the plastic binders, like Tony Robbins used to do? We used to do those. Now, of course, we'd be doing like CD-ROMs and all that kind of stuff. We'd be doing something different. We'd be probably a software company now, which is one of the reasons, by the way, I sold my company, because when the internet came along, I realized all this stuff is going to be going online, and I am not a software entrepreneur. I'm not the sort of person who could bring this company into the 21st century. So I sold this company to some company that could, quite frankly, get it taken. And they've done a beautiful job of taking it to the next level. But let's go back and look at this again. I told you who we serve. I told you what makes us different. We're not a law book publisher. We help lawyers, young lawyers, manage their careers. And we have this, and then I told you this wonderful story about a book that was being stolen from law libraries. Now that does not say much for the ethics of my profession, okay? But isn't that great? If you were writing a book, isn't that dust jacket copy just to die for? The book most frequently stolen from law libraries around the country, American Law Librarians Association. How bad can this book be if people are stealing it from law libraries? Can you imagine that? Now, of course, what we didn't tell anybody is that I was the one that was stealing them all. I would always, whenever I went to a campus and talked on career day, I would always make it a point to swing by the library with a big canvas bag. I wasn't doing that. But seriously, actually, believe it or not, we used to do something quite opposite. We used to do, the technical name for it is reverse theft. Reverse theft. What we would do is, when I was on a campus, I would go to the bookstore with a big canvas bag filled with books. I would find the place where the books should be, make a space, take the books, put them on the shelf, and then walk out. They call that reverse theft, believe it or not. I was putting the books in places where they weren't supposed to be. And what happens, of course, they're bar-coded, right? We did get sales. The sales do get recorded just like anywhere else. But the bookstore owners didn't even know the book was there. That's you learn these tricks after a while. Okay. Now, those two stories that I just told you, if we meet on a street corner 6 months from now, okay, what are you going to remember about me? You're not going to remember anything I've said today except, wait a minute, this guy wrote a book, it was being stolen from law libraries around the country. That you're going to remember, because that's memorable, that's different. That's something you haven't heard from anybody before. And that's what's going to help you remember me. Wait a minute, I need a lawyer. Wait a minute, that guy that spoke to the group 6 months ago, that guy that wrote the law book that was being stolen. Hey Howard, who is that guy? Who was that guy with the blue shirt? The guy that was the big fat guy. Who was he? That's what's going to happen. And that's how opportunities get made. In Hollywood, by the way, I had the privilege years ago when I was doing this TV show, I actually sat in on some casting meetings, and this is what they all do. The Hollywood producers, they sit around and say, okay, now for this part, we need somebody. Who was the girl that paid the girl with the archer and the bows and arrows in those Hunger Games? Who was that woman? I want the woman for that. That's what we want to talk to for this part. This is what they do. They associate. It's free association. Who was the person who did that role in that movie? I want them to, this is something similar. We want them for this movie. This is kind of how the world works. When I'm thinking of one of you, I'm thinking, wait a minute, I met this person. I met them at this particular networking group. Yeah, there was this guy who was wearing a yellow shirt. I want to, and I will make the effort to try to find you if I make that connection. Okay, but you got to give me that memorability. You got to help me get to that point where I remember who you are. So don't get me wrong. Don't stand on your head and whistle Dixie. I'm not asking you to do that. And obviously, you want to do this in a very positive way. If I remember you in a negative way, of course, I'm not going to do anything for you. But this is the most important thing. Be memorable, because you don't know, what's going to happen and who you're talking to. Whenever I do a talk, I always try to make it, even if it's the dullest topic in the world, I try to at least throw a few things in there so that people will remember who I am. It's probably the most important thing you can do when you're trying to impress somebody at a networking group. Now, of course, if you're trying to get rid of somebody, that's a different set of skills. And there are ways, of course, that you do that. I gave you a couple of hints as to how to do that. But I don't like to teach the dark stuff. I'm like for years I used to work for, I had a relationship with eBay. They used to send me around the country. They had something called eBay University, where they would, go around telling their sellers how to build real businesses, selling stuff on eBay. And I was their legal and tax expert, if you would. I was the one who talked about sales tax and when you have to pay income tax and all that. And they used to call me the defense against the dark arts instructor. of eBay University, like the Harry Potter books, right? They used to call me that, And the trick to teaching dark arts is you have to teach people how to protect themselves against the dark arts without giving them so much information that they can practice the dark arts. That's always the big thing. So I'm not really going to tell you how to get rid of somebody in such a nice way that they actually look forward to the trip. But you can figure out some very clever ways. A very useful technique, by the way, is to make sure that you know at least a couple of other members by name. So if you really are in a conversation that you want to end quickly, say, "Oh, wait a minute, there's Howard over there. Hang on, I got to speak to him about something. One of the reasons I'm here today is he's helping me with something. I'll get back to you." And of course, you don't get back to them. That's a way to do it. Manage your time here. I mean, forgive me, not everybody is worth spending a lot of time with. If you're convinced that you're talking to someone you cannot help and who cannot help you, do yourselves both a favor, end the conversation so that that person can go on to somebody who may possibly be able to help them. You're actually doing a good thing for that person. You're not being totally rude and obnoxious. You are actually doing them a favor by doing this. Okay? Last but not least, how to handle the speaker. Okay? Obviously, this is a topic that is very near and dear to my heart. When I do a lot of these meetings, very often I'm the only person that people haven't seen before. So they all jump all over me. But here's the wrong way to do it. And I don't know where this comes from. Somewhere in the world, there is a book. And I don't know, I can't give you the title, I can't give you the author. But whenever I do a program like this, inevitably somebody comes up to me. And what they do is, I'll do this with you. They lock, no, just, you can stay seated. They lock eyeballs, they come up, they shake my hand. Good information. Just like that. Good information. And they all do it. And so I don't know where this comes from. I don't think this comes naturally. I think there's a book out there that says, on networking meetings that says, when you're trying to impress the speaker, go up to him, give him a firm handshake, look him straight in the eye and say, good information. I got to believe this book exists because everybody does it. And when I look at that, when somebody does that, though, what am I thinking as the speaker? I'm thinking, oh, gee, this guy's a nice guy. What am I thinking? No, I'm thinking, this guy didn't listen to a word I said. Okay? The better approach, okay, when doing this, okay, and don't get me wrong, you should compliment the speaker, of course, if you like them. If you think I'm an idiot, obviously, that's a different story. But if you do it, go up to that person and say, I just want to let you know, when you were talking about X a few minutes ago, that story, I can really relate to that. I had a similar experience in my business a couple of years ago. That's the way to do it because it shows you, the speaker, you did listen. You remembered this, and it made a connection to you. That makes me feel good. Some of you are laughing at some of the things I'm saying. Some of you haven't a clue what I'm talking about, and that's perfectly all right, too. But you can relate to that, and that's what I want to know, is that I made an impact. If I come away from this thinking, hey, I touched at least a couple of these people, I feel good about myself. And that's somebody I'm much more likely to help. So if you want to handle the speaker, say, this, I really thought that what you said about that really is true. Get me talking about the thing, and don't start coming in and telling me, good information. Now here's what I want to sell you. That doesn't work. It just doesn't. For those of you who are interested, by the way, I have a 60-minute YouTube video on this. If you go to youtube.com, first of all, if you're looking for my channel, go to youtube.com and search for Cliff Ennico. I always go by Cliff, never Clifford. And you'll see I've got 41 videos up there. Some of them are about career transitions, but most of them are about how to survive as an entrepreneur. That's really that's my gig. That's what I help people start businesses of their own. That is basically my mission in life. Especially older people who may no longer be able to work in corporate America anymore. We'll talk about that in a minute. But that's what these videos are all about. If you search for Cliff Ennico on YouTube, you'll see all my videos. But if you go and search for how to sell, you will see a video that I did a couple of years ago for a local SCORE chapter on how to sell just about anything to just about anybody. My friends call this the purple sweater video because I am wearing this absolutely ugly purple sweater. It looks like I took a carpet from the floor and threw it over my head. Really, if I had known this was going to be a YouTube viral video, I would never have done this. I would have dressed a lot better for the occasion. But this video, a lawyer talking about how to sell, I've got almost 300,000 views on this video. It's a viral video. It's probably the most viral videos on YouTube dealing with small business. And I'm very, very proud of that. Sit there, and the reason why I'm getting so many views is because I'm saying some stuff that a lot of people are not saying about how to sell. I have a very particular view of what works and what doesn't. You may agree with it, you may not. But if you find yourself with an hour tonight with nothing to do, check out this video. Sit there with a bowl of popcorn. It's a little over an hour long. I think it's about an hour and 5 minutes long. And I think it may just end up changing your life in the way that you look at this. And you may want to look at some of my other videos too, although they're more specific for people that are looking to do specific things. You may not be interested in some of that, and I totally get that. Just so you know, we are recording this presentation for my YouTube channel. We're doing it as an audio only. It's only going to be you're only going to be able to hear this, not see this. But if you're interested in a couple of weeks, you can revisit this wonderful experience and see what it's all about. Now, I want to close on just one thing here. What is your objective in life? Why are you in this room? What are you trying to accomplish? Well, there's really only two answers to that question. Answer number one is you're in a career transition, you're in a job transition, and you're looking for another job in corporate America that's similar to the one that you had. Reason number two is you really don't want to work in corporate America anymore. You really want to do something on your own. Whatever that something may be, doing consulting, maybe doing some teaching, whatever. You want to go to plan B in your life. One of the things I notice about networking groups, I don't see a lot of millennials in these networking groups. I see mostly older people. I see mostly baby boomers and sort of senior Gen Xers. Those are the people that I tend to see in these networking groups. Why is that, do you think? Why does it tend to be an older crowd? Answer: because big companies are not interested in hiring people once they reach a certain age. And that's a very dirty little secret, but it's something I don't think is news to any of you. Okay? The older you get, the harder it gets to get a traditional corporate job with a large, mid-sized or bigger corporation. We used to say, and that hasn't changed in 30 years. I was told as a young lawyer first starting out, once you hit 50, forget it. You're not looking at corporations anymore, you're looking at something else. And that hasn't changed in 30 years. Looking around this room at some of you, I don't really know what your current game plan is, but given the fact that you have reached a certain age and a certain stage of life, you should be thinking about plan B, doing something that is in the area of self-employment, maybe doing a consultant for companies. There are a lot of companies out there that will hire you for 1099 work that won't look at you as a W-2 employee. And you should take advantage of that. Get some business cards printed, get some have some stationery printed, go out as, Cliff Ennico and Associates, maybe form a little LLC if you want to, if you think that'll make you look good. Get out there, start pitching companies for consulting work. You'll get a lot farther looking for 1099 work than you will for a full-time position. Okay, and it's also a lot more fun. It gives you a lot more control over your life. If you have an unusual hobby, I collect mechanical banks on eBay. Remember what these things were? They were antique penny banks. You stick your penny in, and the bank would do something cute to deposit the penny. I'm actually a collector of these things, and I buy and I sell them on eBay. I make a little money that way. If you have an area of expertise, if there's something that you know about more than anybody else, do an ebook. Take it from an old publisher. It used to cost $10,000 to print, 1,000 copies of a soft cover book with shrink wrap. Now you can do an ebook and get it published on iTunes and, the Google Store and all these places for less than $500. Okay, and there's an infinite number of copies. You don't have to worry about it. It's all print on demand now. Do that stuff. Get your name out there. Start giving talks on train the trainer stuff. Instead of going and looking for a job, go into the head of HR and say, you know what? I got a killer program on social media and the law. When can you fire an employee because they do something stupid on Facebook? Something like that. I believe that's a very hot topic in HR right now. If you go and say, I want to do a presentation for your HR department, you probably will get a gig on that because nobody's talking about that right now. And by doing that, you get into the company and good things flow from that. These are just some pieces of advice for you for job hunting. Don't think of yourself as somebody who's out of work. Think of yourself as an expert who can teach these companies how to perform better. And then I think you'll find that the results that you'll get will be much more positive and a lot better. Just try that. And especially if you've reached a certain age. it gets harder and harder to look for those traditional corporate jobs, whether you like it or not. Once you're over 50, and especially if you look like you're over 50, which of course I do, you're going to have to start thinking more and more about this Plan B. And if you do, I definitely want to hear from you, because you're the kind of person that I'm in business to help. So that's really all I have to say. I know I've kind of gone a little bit all over the place here, but hopefully I've hit upon some things that will make you at least think a little bit about what you're doing and how you can possibly do it better.